To start off with the easier one, the lantern script. This is just a simple script I put together where I made a boolean toggle. If you press down the middle mouse key, and if this boolean is true, it enables the lantern game object, and if it's false, it disables it. Now, the way this works, just move that, is the hand that holds the lantern is rendered on top by a different camera, as it was mentioned previously, and it has point light coming out of it to actually light around what is in front of the player. It's just a cube holding another cube, really, so it's nothing too advanced. Next up is the portals. Now, no, not portals. Next up is the lock script. Now, what I mean by the lock script is it's the script that allows the player to unlock a door and progress on to the next area. The way I approached this was by making 3 lock models in Blender. Didn't spend too much time on them, as I wanted to focus mainly on the mechanics. And that is about it. I just made those 3 models, and when I brought them into the game, I just put them together under one empty game object that is called locks, or in this case, lock showcase. And the script that actually takes care of this goes on the parent game object. The way this works is it checks when the player enters a trigger collider, and if the player has a key on them. Now, the only way you can tell the player has a key is by using the tag that is on the game object that the player is holding. And if that game object enters the trigger, it disables the lock, and it just also disables the key, so that way you don't have a leftover key. It enables the boolean, which then just takes care of, which then just takes care of opening the door. Now, the way this is done is, once these are all unlocked and all of these booleans are true, it disables a game object and enables another one. Let me just show you. What I mean by that specifically is, let's take this example. It's a door that is locked, and the way I actually keep it locked is by having 2 doors. One that is open, that you can actually move, and one that is closed, which is just a box. It's a box game object, nothing to it. Just has a collider to stop you from walking through. And when the door is locked, the actual door bit that can move isn't there. And the fake door, if you will, is enabled. And when it gets unlocked, it just switches from one to the other, and then you can just walk on through it just fine. That's how I approached making doors in this game. I also made a couple of scripts to unload the previous area, or enable the previous area, for instance. So if the door is opened, usually the only door you can unlock in this game is the door that's at the end of an area. And when that is done, it enables the next area, which is set in a game object array. And it has a for each loop where it enables everything that I set it to. So allow me to just demonstrate really quick. This is a script that takes care of the locks. and it enables the next areas that I tell it to. In this case, in the sample scene, it's environment 2, environment 3. In the actual game, it will be the Abyss 2 and maybe Abyss 3, depends. I can't recall off the top of my head. These are the doors I made. The first one, that didn't really work out so well. And the second one, which is not only working a lot better, I also textured it out to make it feel like it fits in the game. Just a bit more. Allow me to show them really. I cut this bit out. I'll cut that bit out. Anyways, here's how the lock mechanic works. We have the door that we can't walk through, which is barricaded by these 3 locks. If I take each key, hold in my hand and let go, in the box trigger collider, which is this one, that's when it detects the key and disables the lock and does everything it needs to do. If I let go of it here, for example, it won't go through, as the key isn't in the collider. Anyways, I do the same for all of these, and that's it. I can now walk through the door. And it also rendered the next area, which in this case is a little path and a little box that you can just step inside of. Once I step through this door, there is a trigger collider that unloads the previous area, which is just this script right here, which does the same thing as when it loads the next area. It just disables the game objects instead. Either way. This brings me onto the next mechanic, which I really wanted to implement from the very beginning. Ever since I decided to come up with this sort of style idea for my game, I said, I want to have smooth portals. It's something that I've thought about ever since I've seen a video a long time ago, which explained how the portals work in the game Portal. I've said Portal a few too many times just then, but you get the idea. And the way I think this is way beyond my. This was way beyond my understanding. This was way beyond my understanding at the time. So the only real solution I could find was brackies. This video of his really helped me get this mechanic not only to work, but also like allowed me to improve and experience different things. His video, which is only like 24 minutes, actually explained it really well and allowed me to get smooth portals. Allowed me to move that really quick. So credit is due to him for making this video and allowing me to understand this concept. Anyways, just like in the video, you can walk around it, you can see through it from one side, but not from the other. If you walk in from the wrong end, you don't actually get teleported. This is because of a dot product. And if you walk through it from the correct angle, you are in the next place, which for me is way up high in the sky in this level, out of the view of the player. This is a fuse model I made in Blender just to change it up from finding the same keys to the same locks every time. Instead, what you have to do is you just put 3 fuses in a fuse box and it unlocks the exit. Yeah, it's in the basement. This is in the third variation of the house. Anyways, just like the keys, you can pick it up and carry it around, and you can actually take it through portals with you. It doesn't render it at this specific point, but it's fine because it still comes through with the player. And it's not a game breaking bug. So that's how I got that to work. If I enable environment 2 and 3, as you can tell, these two are enabled by the locks. Sorry. These 3 are enabled by the locks. The reason why I put that all the way up there is just because when the player, even if it's me, even when I'm like showing it to someone, I didn't want them to notice what's being rendered behind the door until they open the door or until I open the door. And it felt off to just have like a massive red cube just appear off to the side. So what I did is just move it out where the player won't see it or where they won't think of looking. But initially I thought like putting it under the map, but then I think it wouldn't be correct, so I just threw it all the way up there. That's how I approached the portals. But now let's actually get to the explanation of it. It took me a bit to actually understand this. And I had to make a material for each portal that I used. And I ended up having to use a shader made by Brackeys, which was in the description. The shader wasn't any of my work, it's just something I needed to use to make all of this work. But I ended up making a shader for each portal. In this scene, you only have 2, which is that one and the one up there, which takes you back down. But in the actual level, you have one that takes you from each level across, and that's what you have here. Each texture is set up by the game manager, where it also sets up cameras for each portal, because each portal has its own camera to like render out what's through the portal on the portal. Yeah. Get rid of the yeah, that doesn't sound good. And here are the scripts I used for the portal mechanics. This is one that goes on the this is a script that goes in the game manager. It sets up the cameras and the camera materials. And this is how. It's just the first section copied and pasted for each camera and texture. And because I had quite a few, I made it like this. I wasn't too sure on how to do this with a for each loop, so I thought I should play it safe, and rather than giving myself a headache trying to like do it in a different way, I thought I should just keep it simple so I can like so I can go in and work on the teleport script and the actual camera script. This is the script that offsets the camera for each portal. What I mean by that is, allow me to demonstrate really quick. What I mean by that is one portal, oh, where did it go? Has a camera. And what this camera sees is projected onto a simple plain game object that is on top of this portal. Um, and this camera follows the same sort of movement the player has. As you can see, kind of bugs out when you crouch, I've just noticed. But that's alright. This is a script that takes care of that. This is the script that takes care of teleporting the player. And that is done by this bit of code right here. It also adds a bit of a difference so that the player isn't just in the same plane. Because how the portal actually teleports you is by using another separate frame. It's by using another separate plane that you can't see. It doesn't have any textures on it, and it just takes care of all of this stuff. The dot product, however, is something that is used to detect on which side of the portal the player is currently at. So if the player is behind the dot product, the player won't be able to actually get teleported, but if the player is in front of it, it will be teleported just fine with no problem. This is everything that takes care of this, really.